For decades, Tom Cruise has exploded across the screen as Hollywood's ultimate adrenaline weapon. From heartthrob leading man to full-throttle daredevil, he's redefined what it means to be a superstar. But here's the big question. In a world dominated by CGI superheroes, is Cruise the last flesh and blood action hero standing? Hi, I'm Elizabeth Stanton, and you're watching PopStar Today. In this episode, we come face to face with the man, the myth, the unstoppable machine of action cinema, Tom Cruise.
I kept falling and smacking my head on the floor. Just couldn't balance it. I mean, physically, I just couldn't do it.
Take on the last mission in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
If I had Tom was going to jump into the mouth of a cloned T-Rex, I'd probably go, yeah.
And salute the superstar who turned risk into an art form, Tom Cruise.
You know, driving that motorcycle down that ramp.
But first, let's ask if he's the last real action hero.
I'm not sure how to introduce the biggest movie star in the world, so I'm just going to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Cruise.
Hi, everybody.
Tom Cruise's career is a masterclass in reinvention, risk-taking, and relentless ambition. From his early heartthrob roles in Risky Business and Top Gun, to his commanding performances in dramas like Born on the 4th of July and A Few Good Men, Cruise proved early on he wasn't just a pretty face. He was a serious actor with staying power. But it's his transformation into the ultimate action star that has defined his legacy. In the mid-1990s, Cruise made a bold pivot with Mission Impossible. Not content to merely act, he took on the role of producer, launching a franchise that has become one of the most successful and enduring in Hollywood history. As Ethan Hunt, Cruise created an iconic character, intelligent, daring, and insanely physical. But unlike other stars, he didn't rely on stunt doubles.
I kept falling and smacking my head on the floor. Just couldn't balance it. I mean, physically, I just couldn't do it. After we'd spent all of the morning, we went into a late lunch to try to get this shot. And I'll never forget, I'm telling you, I dropped down, and I'm just hanging there and hanging. I don't want to give it away, but I'm hanging there and hanging there and hanging there. And it worked. And Brian just left me hanging there just to get we had 3 different cameras going. And finally he said, okay, cut. And I just, it was a great feeling though when you got it, and Brian came over, gave me a hug. He said, all right, man, let's go.
What sets Cruise apart isn't just the scale of the stunts. It's the philosophy behind them. At a time when CGI and green screen dominated blockbuster filmmaking, Cruise insists on realism. He trains relentlessly, performs with precision, and demands excellence from his collaborators.
Sometimes some of these things that I'm doing, I'll train for years. There's stuff when you see Mission that I trained for a couple of years for a specific sequence. So it is a stunt, there's danger involved, a lot of danger sometimes, but we do the best we can.
Despite all this preparation, accidents do happen. Over the years, Cruise has racked up an impressive and painful list of injuries. Had a knife pressed millimeters from his eye in a scene gone wrong during Mission Impossible 2, and famously broken his ankle leaping across rooftops for Mission Impossible Fallout.
I looked down, I knew it was broke. I said, damn it, I broke my ankle. And that's why it was the first time that I grabbed the side of the building, so I said, I'm just gonna go climb over and run across camera because I knew there's a camera there and I knew the camera's on the side, so I had to get over the wall so that we could retain the shot. Because I knew we're gonna wrap after this. It's gonna be a little bit of a break. The crew can go on vacation, and McHugh and I are gonna work in the editing room and on script for a few months,
Outside the Mission Impossible franchise, Cruise had taken risks with film like Edge of Tomorrow, Collateral, and Jack Reacher, often playing flawed or reluctant heroes. He continues to evolve as seen in the massive success of Top Gun Maverick, a nostalgic yet forward-looking sequel that reminded audiences why Cruise has remained relevant for over 4 decades.
every single time that passion is there, and you're just going to go as hard as I can to try to make it great for that audience, and it's exhilarating. For me, it is a passion. Some people say to me, well, don't you want a vacation? And I'm like, this is my vacation. You have to understand, I know I'm privileged because I get to be able to do something that I love.
In an age where superheroes wear capes and rely on digital effects, Tom Cruise stands alone. He doesn't need superheroes or motion capture suits. He is the spectacle. His action films are about real stakes, real sweat, and real consequences.
I love what I do. I love showing up on the set and working with the writers and the directors and the other actors. And there's a thrill and an exhilaration of working, an 18-hour day and knowing you've done good work and you feel very proud of yourself for that. But I want to make great films. That's what I'm interested in.
As the industry changes and younger stars rise, this superstar remains the benchmark. He's more than an actor. He's a daredevil, a producer, a perfectionist, and in the Grant tradition of Hollywood icons, he represents something increasingly rare, a star whose name alone promises thrills. Tom Cruise didn't just become an action hero, he became the last true action hero.
Generally, I'm shooting a movie, and I'm working on the edit and overseeing the film that I just finished. And so what I do is, and I'm prepping the next one. So that's just how I work, and I've spent the last 35 years of that making movies in that way.
When it comes to death-defying feats, nobody tops Tom Cruise. Forget green screens or stunt doubles, he delivers pure adrenaline with sheer guts. Here's our top 3 most jaw-dropping stunts, ranked from crazy to absolutely insane. At number 3, dangling from the tallest building in the world is just another day for Cruise. For Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, he scaled Dubai's 830-meter Burj Khalifa with nothing but suction gloves, wires, and a terrifying amount of courage. No CGI trickery here. He was really out there, hundreds of meters above the ground. Next up, most actors pretend. But Tom Cruise actually strapped himself to the side of an Airbus A400M as it took off, 8 times. With only a harness between him and the sky, this scene in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation redefined what it means to open big. And action cinema hasn't been the same since.
When they started pouring on, went throttle to the walls, I was, because I kept saying to, the test pilot we worked with, and you got to go through a lot of engineering to put the camera on, and I kept saying, listen, when the airplane takes off, I want my feet on the side of the fuselage. So I want my feet on the side. He kept saying, I remember his face like, that's not going to be a problem. And I didn't realize that when we were going down the runway, it was hard to keep my feet on the steps. My feet I would do everything to try to hang on. You could see it in the shot. I am hanging on. I'm like, oh.
But our number 1 best Tom Cruise stunt simply has to be the bike cliff jump in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Cruise rides a motorcycle off a cliff in Norway, ditches the bike mid-air, and parachutes down a canyon. It took months of training and over 500 skydives to prep. But the final shot? Pure cinema. And the most insane stunt of his career. Well, so far, that is.
There's a lot of challenges, driving that motorcycle down that ramp, not getting blown off of the ramp by that motorcycle, making sure that as I jump off the ramp, that I can't open my parachute too soon, because that's the shot. And then when I open it, to make sure that I'm not turning into the side of the mountain, I'm landing in the landing zone. And I'm acting.
The Mission Impossible saga has always been about sweat, steel, and sheer insanity. But the final reckoning pushes everything to the edge. This ultimate chapter cements Cruise's place as cinema's greatest thrill seeker. Think he's already peaked? Just wait until you see how he closes the curtain.
I need you to trust me. One last time.
For nearly 30 years, Ethan Hunt has asked us to trust him, and we have. When the series reached its final chapter in 2025, one thing was clear. The stakes may be global, but what really matters is the story and the people we follow through it.
We always start with some sort of action sequence or some sort of location, a concept for places we want to go, things we want to try as filmmakers, knowing full well that spectacle only matters for a moment. If you're not invested in the characters, if you're not invested in the story, you won't be invested in that sequence.
The Mission Impossible movies are always challenging, especially when you're Tom Cruise.
I mean, nothing is ever easy on Mission Impossible, that's for sure. And Tom studies everything, every detail of everything, because he has to go through so many things technically. When we went to visit him on set for the scene in the water in the tank, he had to make sure that he could move in the outfit, and you know, he spent years like working and training for everything.
Everything you are, everything you've done.
The scale of each installment is always more ambitious than the last, with bigger ideas and tougher challenges. That's why Tom and McHugh are the perfect team.
They just get each other, you know. On a very fundamental level, they are two sides of a coin.
They both share the same ambition of wanting to push themselves further and the film further. And then I think because of that, they seem to inspire each other and encourage each other to, yeah, it's a great team.
At the beginning of every one of these, Tom will say to me, "What do you want to do?" And I'll say, "What do you want to do?" Tom said, "I want to do a wing walking sequence. That's really what I want to do." He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to do a submarine sequence." I had already planted the seeds for that in Dead Reckoning. And during both of those sequences, each of us turned to the other at one point and said, "Remember, this was your idea. You wanted this. You wanted this to happen." Because they turned out to be, without question, the most challenging sequences we had ever done.
By now, nothing Tom Cruise does should surprise us. And yet, somehow it still does. Not Simon Pegg, though.
Having been on these films for 18 years, if I heard Tom was going to jump into the mouth of a cloned T-Rex, I'd probably go, yeah. It doesn't surprise me anymore. If he said he was going to jump off the moon, I'd be like, okay.
It's that unbreakable daring at the heart of every impossible mission that drives this saga. In The Final Reckoning, Tom Cruise pushed past every limit, delivering a legendary finale.
This was your calling, your destiny. I have no regrets. Neither should you.
We've looked at his wildest stunts, and now we're heading into one of his toughest roles in Jack Reacher. But before that, let's strip things back to the timeless icon himself, a man who never stopped running and never stopped raising the bar. Hollywood icon Tom Cruise developed a love of acting from an early age and landed his first speaking role in 1981's Taps.
Since I was 4, I wanted to make movies, and I remember being on the set of Taps and thinking, you know, if I can make movies the rest of my life, I'd be so happy.
The rising star's big breakthrough came 2 years later with the teen comedy Risky Business. But young Cruise already seemed to have his whole career mapped out.
All the scripts were coming in, it was Risky Business, and I thought, I have to protect my talent here because I know I want to grow, I have to develop, and I don't want to burn out.
Thankfully, Tom's next choices turned out to be excellent, like the classic blockbuster Top Gun.
It's totally entertaining, and people just go in there, and it's emotional, you know, it's exciting, it's funny, and they just sit down and they just go on this, you know, wonderful ride.
In 1989, Cruise fell for his co-star Nicole Kidman on the set of Tony Scott's racing car drama, Days of Thunder. And the couple loved working together so much, they hooked up again for Far and Away. The remainder of the 90s flew by in a haze of constant successes, like winning a Golden Globe for Jerry Maguire.
Did I make any sense in my speech whatsoever? I came off, I said, did I make any sense? Do I look like a total idiot?
And kicking off a brand new action-packed franchise called Mission Impossible.
You know, with Mission Impossible, I said it's going to cost X amount of dollars, and it cost X amount of dollars, and they just leave me alone and let me deliver them the picture. And
I think that that's the good thing about it, that I've earned that privilege, and I do feel it to be a privilege.
1999 brought a third collaboration with Nicole in Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, an intense film exploring the dark side of marriage and sexuality.
I'm glad that we went through it at the stage of our marriage that we did, as opposed to in the first year. It would have been, I think, more difficult to do that, because you really have to trust the other person.
Although the couple split in 2001, Cruise never slowed down and is known for his devotion to all aspects of cinema.
So generally I'm shooting a movie and I'm working on the edit and overseeing the film that I just finished. And so what I do is, and I'm prepping the next one. So that's just how I work, and I've spent the last 35 years of that making movies in that way.
Now the world's best action hero in 2022, decades after the first film catapulted him into superstardom, Tom finally reprised his most famous role for the long-awaited sequel, Top Gun Maverick.
Everywhere I traveled around the world, they wanted a sequel, and it was just never right. It's just the story wasn't right, but I'd lay there in bed, and I'm constantly thinking about stories, and I was like, okay, what if, how? And it just came together, and it just was like, okay, it is now or never, and I felt like the challenge is there, and maybe we can figure this out.
And 2025 found him wrapping up his impossible mission at last, in the franchise's 8th installment, The Final Reckoning.
What I like to do is take everything that we learned from one movie, whatever it is, and then put it in the next. And you'll see this is not only a culmination of the last 30 years of this franchise, but it's a culmination of the 45 years that I've been privileged enough to make movies.
An industry veteran with decades of experience, Tom Cruise comes second to no one in his commitment and dedication.
All I can think about when I'm making a film is the audience. It's something that I never take for granted. It's an absolute privilege. That's what I'm thinking about. And I just wanted to do it my whole life. I wanted to make movies. And I've been blessed because I'm actually able to do that. And I will do it for the rest of my life.
Not every action hero needs a cape or even a gadget. In Jack Reacher, Tom Cruise relied on nothing but brains, brawn, and pure grit. It's a stripped-down role that reminded audiences that Cruise doesn't just play action heroes, he is one.
3, 2, 1, action!
2012's Jack Reacher is a gritty crime thriller directed by Chris. Tom insisted on performing many of his own stunts and fight scenes. Unlike the fast-cut, hyper-stylized combat scene in many modern action films, McQuarrie chose realism. Reacher's fights aren't about flash, they're about efficiency and dominance. Cruise keeps it raw and grounded, occasionally convincing the crew during the shoot that the pain was real.
There were a couple of instances where I really believed he had sold it so well that I thought when we yelled cut, we were going to have to go in there with stitches.
McQuarrie's eye for practical action also influenced the film's standout sequences, especially the gripping car chase through Pittsburgh. Shot without green screens or flashy CGI, the chase was crafted with old-school precision. Cruise did nearly all the driving himself in a vintage 1970s Chevy Chevelle, pushing the car and his nerves to the limit.
It was definitely nerve-wracking, and fortunately he makes it so easy. He's so specific and trains so hard and makes sure that safety is a #1 priority, not just for him, but for everybody else.
The director brought a film noir-like sensibility to the project, emphasizing shadows, tension, and old-school detective vibes. Interestingly, Werner Herzog, yes, the legendary German filmmaker, played the film's villain, a chilling ex-prisoner known only as the Zack. Herzog brought an eerie, offbeat menace to the role, claiming he based the character's presence on real-life criminals he's encountered while making documentaries. Another fun tidbit, Rosamund Pike, who plays a defense attorney caught in the crossfire of the investigation, later revealed she was 6 months pregnant during filming, but kept it a secret from most of the crew. Though not a massive box office hit, Jack Reacher earned a loyal fan base and even spawned a sequel. With its hard-boiled tone, practical action, and surprising cast choices, it stands as a compelling entry in the modern action thriller genre, and marked the first of many Cruise-McQuarrie collaborations.
We get very, very excited about it, and when we're making a film together and we see things starting to come together the way we imagined it, there's nothing more exciting.
And that's it for today. Join us next time when we'll once again check out all the latest on Hollywood's hottest stars. I'm Elizabeth Stanton. See you then.